And the other thing is the voice. You talked with Barry White, and you always sound like a soprano next to him.
Known for his unique bass voice and romantic image, Barry White was no doubt the undisputed king of boudoir disco, a master of soul and popular R&B. He was also an accomplished multi-instrumentalist, a grade-A producer, a singer-songwriter, and arranger with impeccable credentials. He scored so many hits, enjoyed so many gold and platinum discs, both singles and albums, and took to the rostrum 3 times as a Grammy Award winner. It is only fair to say he is that rare thing, a true cultural icon. With combined worldwide record sales exceeding 100 million, it is no doubt he was loved and adored. With hits such as, Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe, and You're the First, the Last, My Everything, he cemented his place among the greats without a doubt. However, his journey to the top was marred with difficulties, and he had to put double the effort to achieve success in a notoriously cutthroat industry. Born on September 12, 1944 in Galveston, Texas, Barry Eugene Carter White was the older of 2 children of Melvin White and Sadie Marie Carter. At just 6 months, White together with his mother, moved to the Watts neighborhood of South Central Los Angeles in California, where he would be raised. He attended Jacob A. Riis High School, an all-boys academy. Growing up in abject poverty, Barry together with his brother Darryl, took a dangerous trajectory in life, a trajectory that would cost them dearly. Growing up in the hood, they found themselves living the street life, becoming criminals, and were involved with gangs. His brother even went to juvenile at age 8. For Barry, he would be arrested in 1960 at the age of 16 for stealing $30,000 worth of Cadillac tires, and sentenced to 7 months in prison. In an interview with the Rolling Stones, he was quoted saying he actively participated in the famous in 1965 Watts riots, which lasted from August 11 to 16, 1965. The riots had serious casualties with 34 people dying, 1,032 of them injured and 3,428 people arrested. Back to when he was in the Los Angeles Juvenile Hall, something special happened to him. A month off his 16th birthday, while he was lying on his bunk, he went into deep thinking about his life, and the disappointment face of his mother whenever she came to visit him. By now he had served 6 of the 7 months he was sentenced, and over this period, he had done much soul-searching as to why and how he had ended up there. He admitted that his actions were solely responsible for the situation he was in, prompting a strong desire in him to change his life, the only problem he didn't know how. While still deep in his thoughts, along the corridor, the officer in charge turned on a transistor radio, and out of it came Elvis Presley, singing the chart-topping ballad, It's Now or Never. The words of Elvis Presley sparked something off in his head, and even though he had heard the song before, it felt like he was hearing it for the first time. It was as if Presley was directly talking to him. From then he swore to turn his fortunes, and from the beginning of the next morning, everything around him looked different. He felt different. He decided once he was out, music was the answer, something he had a passion in. Growing up, his mum, who had been forced onto welfare when chronic arthritis ended her 3-film acting career, used to give piano lessons, and Barry was one of the beneficiaries. As young as 4, he stayed glued to the phonograph when she played her records, symphonies, sonatas, melodies soaring through him. He fell in love with his mother's music classical collection and would take to the piano, to emulate her. Through this, he developed a liking to it, and now he knew exactly what was going to be his mission. Immediately after his release, true to his words, he embarked on a musical journey. He first released Too Far to Turn Around in 1960 as part of the upfronts before working for various small independent labels in Los Angeles. He also recorded several singles under his own name in the early 1960s, backed by vocal groups The Atlantics and The Majestics. He was now deep into music even though he was still in school. On his 18th birthday, which also was the first day back for his graduating year of high school, he skipped class to walk to Capitol Records headquarters in downtown Los Angeles, just to admire the liveliness of the area. And that's how he dropped out of school. In 1965, White produced Feel A.W. Right by the Bel Cantos, released on the Downey label. He recorded his debut single, Man Ain't Nothing, released under the name Lee Barry on Downey in 1966. He also co-wrote Together Forever, released by Pat Powdrill and the Power Drills in 1967. In the mid-60s, Bob Keane of Del Fi Records hired him as an A&R man for his new Bronco Records imprint, and White started working with the label's artists, including Viola Wills and the Bobby Fuller Four, as a songwriter, session musician, and arranger. The persistence was starting to bear fruits. He discovered singer Felice Taylor and arranged her song, I Feel Love Coming On, co-written with his friend Paul Polity. It became a big hit in the UK. In 1969, White was signed by Forward Records of Los Angeles, a division of Transcontinental Entertainment Corporation, as a producer. In 1972, White got his big break producing a girl group he had discovered called Love Unlimited. White produced, wrote and arranged their classic soul ballad, Walking in the Rain with the One I Love, which climbed to number 14 in the Billboard Hot 100 pop chart, and number 6 on the Billboard R&B chart in late 1972. It became White's first million-selling single as a writer and producer. Over to his solo career, it happened by coincidence. While working on a few demos for a male singer, he made 3 song demos of himself singing and playing, but Nunes heard them and insisted that he re-record and release them himself as a solo recording artist. After arguing for days about it, White was finally persuaded to release the songs himself, although he was initially reluctant to step out behind the microphone. He would record his first solo album, 1973's I've Got So Much to Give, which included the title track and his first solo chart hit, I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little More Baby, which rose to number 1 on the Billboard R&B charts, as well as number 3 on the Billboard Pop charts in 1973, and stayed in the top 40 for many weeks. From then, there was no looking back. White also developed a strong following in the UK, where he scored 5 top 10 hits and a number 1 for You're the First, The Last, My Everything. Due to his large frame, facial hair, and deep voice, he was given the nickname, the Walrus of Love, in the UK. In the US he was Dr. Love, Mr. Love, Prince of Pillow Talk, Ambassador of Romance, King of Disco, the Maestro, or Guru of Love. He would leave 20th Century in 1979 after 6 years, to launch his own label, Unlimited Gold, with CBS and Columbia Records. In the 80s, as the disco era was dying a slow death, so was his success. He however maintained a loyal following even though he failed to replicate his earlier successes. Over to the 90s, his career resurrected, courtesy of a 1970s nostalgia fad. The person who said old songs are the quickest way to travel back in time, didn't lie. After participating in the song, The Secret Garden, from Quincy Jones's 1989 album Back on the Block, White mounted an effective comeback with several albums, each more successful than the one before. He returned to the top of the charts in 1991 with the album Put Me in Your Mix, which reached number 8 on the Billboard R&B Albums chart, and the song by the same name reached number 2 on the Billboard R&B Singles chart. In 1994, he released The Icon Is Love, which went to number 1 on the Billboard R&B Album charts, and the single, Practice What You Preach, gave him his first number 1 on the Billboard R&B Singles chart in almost 20 years. In 1996, White recorded the duet In Your Wildest Dreams with Tina Turner. The rest is history. White was also involved in acting, mostly doing voiceover work for television and movies, and also commercials. Away from that, it is known that White was overweight for most of his adult life and suffered from related health problems. On top of this, he was a heavy smoker, reportedly smoking approximately between 7 and 8 packs a day. His problems started while he was on tour in the summer of 1995, where he nearly collapsed after a concert. He took a break from performing that fall, and on October 30th of that year, he was hospitalized after having a stroke due to high blood pressure. He was in a coma for 4 days, but was discharged a week after coming out of it. While touring with Earth, Wind & Fire in August 1999, White was forced to cancel a month's worth of tour dates owing to exhaustion, high blood pressure, and a hectic schedule. Family, friends, and associates also reported that as the 2000s began, White was in such poor health that he could hardly stand up. His last performances suffered as a result. In September 2002, White was hospitalized with kidney failure attributed to chronic high blood pressure. He was also believed to have been diabetic. While undergoing dialysis and awaiting a kidney transplant in May 2003, White suffered a severe stroke, which forced him to retire from public life. He also suffered multiple seizures in his last few weeks. White's unstable health prevented him from receiving a new kidney, and he died on July 4, 2003, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles after suffering cardiac arrest, aged 58 years old. His remains were cremated, and the ashes were scattered in the ocean off the California coast. At the time of his death, White had at least 9 children. He fathered 4 kids with his first wife Betty Smith, who was also his childhood sweetheart, before separating in 1969. He had married her when he was just 19. In 1974, Barry married singer Glodian James, with whom they also had 4 kids. He also had a daughter, Denise Donnell, born in 1962, to Gertha Allen, who he didn't know about till in 1988. With all said, his legacy is undoubtedly cemented, and his songs will never go extinct. Continue resting in peace, Barry. You'll always have a special place in our hearts.